the first thing I want to ask you, Thomas, is do you think Florida State played well this game, or do you think this was a sloppy game for this team?
I think you could say that it was somewhat sloppy for Florida State, but you also got to take into consideration the fact that this was their first game since the end of January. Obviously, Florida State was in their second extended pause of the season due to a COVID-19 positive test. So I guess a lot of people anticipated that, Florida State was going to take them a while to get back up to speed. And the muscle memory kicked in late in the second half. Florida State, largely thanks to that layup by Scotty Barnes with under a second left in the second half in regulation, they were able to escape.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head there. If Scotty Barnes doesn't hit that shot at the end of the game, we might be having a very different conversation right now about this Florida State team. But, like you're saying, it was a sloppy game, and in some aspects, this is their first game back in about 2 weeks from play. But I think I was also really impressed in a lot of moments from this team, because you were talking about that Scotty Barnes shot at the end of regulation, but then they go straight into overtime. And I think up until about a minute left in that overtime period, Wake hadn't scored a field goal for that entire period, and Florida State just went up early. So can you talk a little bit about, we were, just before we started this broadcast, we were talking about the fact that this is Florida State's 11th straight overtime victory. It ties an NCAA record. Also, their 23rd straight home conference victory, which they're now starting to approach the all-time record for ACC conference home victories that was set by Duke back in the early 2000s. I think we've seen a lot of growth out of this Florida State team over this season. I think when we look back at the end of the season, this could be one of those games where you look back to and say, okay, this could be a great starting point for the rest of the end of the season for the Seminole team.
For sure. And you got to give some credit to Wake Forest too. Obviously, Wake Forest, they're under 500, but they approached Florida State the way that they should have, which was trying to beat Florida State from three. Wake Forest, they made 13 3-pointers. And of course, you got to credit to Jonah Antonio, who was averaging about 6 points a game this season. And he decided to drop 23 points against Florida State. I don't know if he finished 7 of 8 from three, but I know he was 7 of 8 from three at one point. And it's a consistent theme with this Florida State team that if you're going to beat them, you're going to have to beat them from deep, given that Florida State is, probably the tallest team in the country, definitely a top 5 tallest team in the country. You're going to have to beat them with your shooters. You saw that with Georgia Tech. You saw that with UCF. And Wake Forest tried to emulate that today. But, yeah, I think Florida State is growing. I kind of went into this game thinking no matter what happens, I think that this team is still well primed to make a run in March. It's kind of hard to ask a team to come back from a 2-week break and look as good as they were looking when they were winning 5 games in a row in January. But they stepped up when it mattered, and that's just a consistent theme of Leonard Hamilton's teams over the last 4 years. They're just clutch. And Scotty Barnes, for the second or third time this year, he hit a huge clutch shot at the end of the game. And I was telling a friend, I was texting a friend after the game, that Trent Forrest would be proud, because the guy who's making those clutch shots for Florida State for the last few years was Trent Forrest, with 5 seconds left, down by 2, or to take the lead at the end of the game. And it seems like Scotty Barnes has kind of, carved that role as the clutch scorer for Florida State at the end of ball games. So if you're a Florida State fan, you got to feel proud of this team and how they, reacted to adversity tonight. Obviously not playing at their best level, but they got it done.